as you can see, handling the business. Very few people can go face to face with La Mera Mera and not back down and tell her how the couch used the cabbage, as my grandma used to say. Ladies and gentlemen, in the house, CT the Mike Slayer, Carolina Teague. What's going on, Carolina?
Oh my God, I'm just so happy to be here. Thank you guys so much for inviting me. I'm so excited. I loved the intro, by the way. Both of them. Both of them were 10 out of 10. Seriously.
Awesome. Well, we were shooting for the moon there, but we had to encapsulate. I wanted to kind of get a little bit of that, no chance in hell, the corporate vibe, but also the boss lady vibe, but get a little bit of a nice hip hop vibe too. So I'm glad it worked. It fits you. Maybe that should be your new intro when stuff's about to go down in Mission Pro. We hit the music and you come walking out.
Honestly, I might have to pay you guys for your services because I love it.
This one's on us. It's royalty free, but just we know you've got so much going on with a lot of the egos and a lot of the stuff going on with Mission Pro. But before we dive into all the drama with Mission Pro, we want to ask a little bit about your background because you're no stranger to sports media. And in fact, you are the 2017 ESPN, I think it's officially called the Radio Goddess Champion. I don't know if I got that right, but that's what it said. To me, that's what I think it is. So how did you get started into sports media, and what's really gotten you and what brought you to becoming the Mission Pro general manager? It's what made you want to sign up for that?
Yeah. Well, long story short, I had my grandmother was in radio, #1 for 32 years in Tejano. She'd bring me to the radio stations and she'd say and I would be like, Grandma, this is what I want to do. And she would say there's no money here. So become a lawyer or a doctor. Fast forward, and I love sports too, by the way. And basically, I love sports, and I saw an ad on Facebook for a competition in San Antonio, ESPN Rock the Mic, and I tried out, and I ended up beating over 150 people for that spot, and I had 13,000 votes, and I made it to the top 4. They threw a random topic at you, and you had to be live on air, and if you sounded the best, you got the spot. I ended up winning the competition, and I was the only woman out of all, I think 7 or 8 years of the competition. I was the only woman who ever won that competition. From that point, everything just kind of snowballed into what it is. I had a local wrestling promoter who's still one of my good friends to this day, Brandon Oliver at River City Wrestling. Mm-hmm. He invited me to be on as a guest general manager, turned into ring announcer, turned into fan voted best ring announcer in 2023. At that point, I had been developing relationships with a lot of people. One of them is Thunder Rosa and Brian from Mission Pro Wrestling, who are absolutely fantastic people. One day they asked me if I could be GM, and we prepped for it for several months, and now we're here. So I'm really, really, first of all, wrestling has been fantastic to me as far as sports goes. I've covered a lot of sports. Mm-hmm. Wrestling is hands down my favorite sport to be a part of, because the experiences that I've had with people like you, podcasters, talent, just promoters, everything. It's always been very professional, very drama-free, honestly. And I've been very, very blessed to have a lot of connections in the wrestling world and just have a lot of positive relationships. So I love being a part of the wrestling community.
Well, definitely. And if you've got the Brian and Thunder Rosa seal of approval, then you definitely are doing something right. Do you think your mom kind of sensed, because to be great in radio and podcasting and whatnot, you have to think on the spot. You have to think on your spot in sports media, especially when you're like a ring announcer or you're a personality in a live event. Do you think that the things that would make you a good lawyer are what, like the traits that also allow you to be excellent at your sports media endeavors?
Absolutely. I was on the debate team in high school, and that helped me out tremendously when the competition came around, because people are pitching a conversation to me, and I have to think on the fly and just debate that topic and stick with it. And also another thing is that I've been given feedback based off of my career and the things that I've been through is that I always find a solution to a problem. So I think one of the traits that I bring to a table, whether it be wrestling or being a GM or being a part of other organizations, is that I'm a problem solver. And if one area doesn't work for me, I find a way to make it work somewhere else. So I think, yeah, it goes hand in hand. The knowledge that I've acquired throughout my, years on radio, I've definitely been able to apply it to wrestling. Things happen on the fly, and you have to know how to adjust very, very quickly and still make it sound really good.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of personalities you have to, is massage the word? I don't know. Handle, kind of manage, guide. You got to guide those horses to water, whether they drink, that's on them.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those kind of situations have you been able to navigate? Or too many to count?
Yeah, exactly. Too many to count. But I think, I've had my moments where I'm not perfect, right? But for the most part, when it comes to Mission Pro, I definitely have my professional corporate hat on. And I was told from when I got originally hired, the reason why I was GM is because of my experiences as a woman in this industry. And our mission is to empower and uplift women. So anytime I interact with any of these women, I'm trying to uphold that vision. I'm trying to uphold that honor, and sometimes it's for better or for worse. If I feel like you're overstepping the vision, which is to uplift and empower women, that's when I have to step in as a GM, and I have to have those tough conversations. Sometimes it goes over well, sometimes it doesn't, but I try my best to keep a balance, and I try my best to listen to everybody based on their individual needs, and I cater my responses and my personality to each and every single person.
That's got to be, that's what makes it sound like such a tough job. I mean, you really have to make those hard calls. And I know Brent is probably the number one. I think he's ranked like lieutenant general in the Thunder Rosa Army. He's probably one of the number one fans. But Brent, do you have any questions for the one person that I've seen get face to face with Thunder Rosa that wasn't about to wrestle her? I don't know. Maybe Thunder was thinking she was going to take a swing. I don't know. But having to, this turn in Thunder Rosa, Brent, what are your thoughts, and how do you feel Carolina has handled this new Thunder Rosa we're seeing?
Man, I was so shocked when I saw that. I've never saw someone stand up to her like that, and you held your ground really well. And I think she respects that in you. That's probably why you got the job, because it's not all one-sided. You're not like a yes person. You're looking for that criticism. I think one of the questions I might have for you is, what kind of power do you have, working with, Thunder, Brian, and Jeremiah? Are you able to like come up with like matches on the fly? Do you have to like sit on a board meeting with them and kind of like map out like maybe who's going to face who, or like out of nowhere, are you able to just like make a call like at a show and say, and like make a matchup?
Not, for me, yes, sometimes I do. Sometimes I do, like with Rashay Chanel and Tiffany Nieves. That was my call. With the JP Harlow having to go against Black Swan, that was also my call too. So there are situations where, yes, I do have say so. And then there's also situations like when I did step to Thunder Rosa, my job was really on the line. And to be fair, I'm scared of her, who's not. But I had to stick my ground, and I had to just tell her to her face what everybody else is afraid to tell her to her face, because a lot of people are afraid to voice their opinion on her smacking Izzy Moreno and how it looks for the company. But I have to make those tough decisions. For me, I in those type of situations, sometimes I do have to get the other owners involved, because that's when the checks and balances come in.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you could be so upset with me and overwhelmed with emotion that you just want to get rid of me or slap me or put hands on me like Thunder Rosa did. And and emotions can run really high. And in those instances, that's when I go to the other leaders and I have somebody kind of balance that out. So it just depends on each situation.
I would say that true bravery is not the absence of fear, but it's doing what's right in spite of it. And to me, I love that you admitted, I think we're all, none of us here want to take a Thunder Rosa chop to the chest at all. But the fact that you are fighting not for your own ego, you're fighting for what Mission Pro stands for, and reminding her and everybody what that's all about, and slapping Izzy Moreno. I mean, Izzy Moreno is like an example of what Mission Pro is trying to promote and create a safe space for women and women's wrestling. And to have an advocate like you in this such a leadership position in one of the arguably the premier women's wrestling program in the country, if not the world, that's fantastic for so many. What do you feel like we are approaching or in kind of a women's wrestling renaissance at this time, or do we have a lot of work to go before women's wrestling is where it needs to be?
I think it is a renaissance to an extent. I see a lot more women now thriving more than ever. And I mentioned earlier, wrestling has been really good to me. I've been in many positions in different areas where I was not accepted at all. And I was directly told it was because I was a woman.
Wow.
There's been places that I've been that are very kind to women too. It's just not enough. And I feel like in wrestling, what I love about it the most is we can be ourselves and we can be accepted. And that's something that I've always experienced. And I feel like since I've been in wrestling, I've gotten so many opportunities that I couldn't have gotten anywhere else. So I do feel like there is a renaissance. Wrestling to me, and what I love about it the most, is for everybody. You can see every kind of fan in the wrestling crowd. We are all one and the same. We all just love the sport, and we're non-judgmental. At least that's what I've come across. Everybody's just really friendly and they love each other. So for me, yeah, it's definitely a women's renaissance, number one. And number two, like the sport has come a long way. I don't know if you guys remember China from the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
She started wrestling men. She was a pioneer in that sense because she wrestled men, and she was the very first woman to do so. To go from that trajectory of it being something that was never seen or heard of to now you see local independent companies, men and women are fighting each other all the time.
Yeah.
That just shows how much the sport has grown and how accepting it has become for women. So I think that this is a great time to be a part of the sport.
And if you're Masha Slamovich, you're also wrestling bears. Apparently, Masha taking that out. Brent, do you have another question for the GM? I've got some questions, but go for it.
Yeah, sure. Coming up, you mentioned your grandmother was in radio, and you were kind of influenced by her. Do you have any other influences as you were growing up? Maybe some broadcasters or like backstage interviewers that might have got you into it, and also, how did you get involved, like liking wrestling too? On top of that.
Yeah, so growing up, I was big on Summer Sanders because she used to be on, I think, NBA Inside Stuff and on Nickelodeon too. And she was a sportscaster, and she was also an Olympic gold medalist. Fast forward into my career, I actually got to interview her, and I think that was the one, I know that was the one time in my career where I just like speechless. Sounded so horrible. Was like, oh my God, you're the best. Like one of those situations, because she's someone I looked up to growing up. Hannah Storm in the sports radio space. Joy
Hannah
Taylor.
Storm. Love Hannah.
Yeah, she's awesome too. Also Joy Taylor, I look up to her too. I've been able to interview her too. Like, so all these things that my career has been, I've been blessed to interview the people I look up to, which is incredible for me. And I would say I love Jamel Hill too. I like how she's unapologetically herself, whether you like her or not.
Yeah.
She's unapologetic, she's herself, and she's been at the top of the top. Michelle Beadle. And as far as wrestling is concerned, how I got into it, truth be told, and people, I've been criticized for this, but I watched wrestling here and there growing up because my best friend up the street, she was huge into wrestling. She was obsessed with The Rock. I watched The Rock, the China, the Stone Cold stuff. I did watch that, but I wasn't heavily invested into the storylines. I became in love with wrestling once I started in wrestling here in San Antonio, and I started working with the local promotions. The reason why I think that's a better thing is because I look at these wrestlers as human beings. I don't look at them as wrestlers. I look at them as human beings. I interact with them as human beings. And it's honestly, I think it's been helpful for me to navigate my career and be able to be within different companies and move accordingly, because I fall in love. I've been blessed to not only fall in love with the sport, now I'm obsessed with it. Like, you can't get me to not turn away from WrestleMania. You can't get me to not watch WWE NXT. You
Yep.
can't get me to turn away from that stuff now. Like, I'm
It's in
heavily
your
invested.
veins now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's been injected into me by force, and I love every second of it. But I feel like for I feel like that's the reason why I think that that's better, is because I've just been blessed to see wrestling from a different perspective.
Fresh
So
perspective. Yeah.
yeah, and I come from a sense of I'm not like a super fan or whatever. I'm just somebody who just genuinely likes every single person I interact with, and I see them from a human perspective. I know how hard they work. I know their struggles. I know the hardships in their careers, and I have so much respect for the sport of wrestling and the promoters, all the companies I'm a part of, the WWE, all the big promotions all across the globe. I have so much respect because it is not easy, and it's so much fun.
It's such a fun, like, family community. And not to peel back the curtain too much, but just to be and speak in generalities, is that, I've heard it both ways. But to, like I said earlier about when Thunder and Brian give you that seal of approval, you're doing something really right. They think highly of you. How important is it, and like, what has been your experience with the Mission Pro locker room? And, like, again, we're not going to talk about any kind of kayfabe-ish thing, but just, like, without naming names, how important is a supportive locker room and supporting each other?
That's a really great question. I like to be a part of locker rooms that are positive locker rooms. I like drama-free, gossip-free locker rooms. That's how I like to be a part of promotions. And I've been lucky enough to experience for several years locker rooms that are very, very positive. So that's the when I first started at RCW, that's the kind of environment that I was introduced to. So that's the kind of environment I expect everywhere I go. So I haven't had an experience with someone in a locker room where it's gone left. I am like, okay, this is a standard right here. Everybody gets along. Everybody just likes to have fun. And of course, when it gets down to business, we got to get down to business. But aside from the business part, I like positivity, good vibes. That's what I've been introduced to, and that's what I expect at any locker room I go to.
We have a question from the chat. One of our fans, hold on. It is a Mr. Brian Cervantes. Hey, welcome to the show. He's asking, where does Caroline see Mission Pro Wrestling in 5 years? Great question. Thank you.
Well, Mission Pro Wrestling, I think that's Brian, actually, my boss.
I think so too.
but Mission Pro was one of the top companies in the globe as far as YouTube views are concerned, and they have a huge social media presence. I expect Mission Pro Wrestling to be the top women's wrestling company in the country in the next 5 years. If we keep going down this direction where we bring elite talent, if we bring continue that positive locker room energy, the push out any type of negativity, and you stay focused on the actual vision, I have zero doubt in my mind that Mission Pro can be a premier women's wrestling company in the globe. I mean, I would like for Mission Pro to produce their own shows and pitch them out to different networks, and perhaps have a reality show.
Yes.
I want pro wrestling to, I mean, that would be fun too. I would want, the Netflix series, they have a wrestling Netflix series. I would like for there to be a production on that aspect, and then pitch something to Netflix and have somebody pick that up so we can bring out bigger eyeballs, more eyeballs to Mission Pro Wrestling, and perhaps even coming up with a television deal down the line. I know that takes a lot of money, time, effort, but anything is possible if you really put your mind to it. And if you have a backing and investors who believe in your vision, anything's possible. So I would love to see Mission Pro on television, and similar to women's wrestling. why can't Mission Pro do something like that? They absolutely can. So it's just all in your mind frame and where you want to take yourself. And I feel like sky's the limit.
And I think the official word, we all agree. Great answer. I think we all agree. There's a couple other questions in the chat, but I agree. I love hearing all that stuff. In 5 years, Mission Pro being on TV, Netflix series. I'd love to see him in the Hammerstein Ballroom. There's so much cool stuff. And Brent, do you notice? Just in talking with Carolina, I'm noticing a bit of like the La Mira Fire here. Like this is another person that doesn't take no for an answer and is very capable and smart. And I think that this is the leadership I think we need to accomplish that. Ideas, and I love something else you said earlier too about seeing the wrestlers as humans. I think that is so necessary in any business. Is a lot of times like managers see their employees or the people that they manage as like numbers or just pawns. You see them as people, and that's the making of not just a manager but a leader. And so that's fantastic, and that can't always really be something that's taught, or that's something that's I think sometimes innate. I do want to get to a question. Well, we do have a couple questions, and I know that I know you've got the flight leaving here in a little. You got to get heading out in about 10 minutes or so. Courtney in the chat, she wants to know, can Mission Pro Wrestling come to Greensboro or Roanoke, Virginia? We'll see if we can book that. But she had us the question, non-wrestling question. What do you like to do when you're not at wrestling?
I love to exercise. I love to work out. I love exercising. Like I have to get it done 5 times a week. I actually lost 15 pounds. So I'm proud of myself. Because I gotta be the example that I want to set.
Yeah.
But I gave up a lot of things that I really love. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But I still like enjoy my Coke Zeros every now and then. I like to exercise. I love cooking. I have a cooking YouTube channel that nobody knows about. It's called Cooking with Gato, and my rice recipe has 40,000 views, and I'm very proud of my rice recipe.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have a chicken recipe, and I think it has 20,000 views. They're low sodium options. So I like to cook, and I just like to make people happy. I think I've always felt like the way to someone's heart is through their stomach. So when I want to show my family and my friends that I love them, I always cook them a good meal. So that's what I love doing.
Coming soon, the Mission Pro potluck. I'm there. My mouth is already watering. I don't know about you, Brent.
Oh yeah.
Brent, I'm gonna let you, before I dive into a possibly controversial question, I'll let you jump in. But I think you might know where I'm going.
Yeah. I'm just kind of curious. I guess outside of like a non-wrestling question there, what do you like to do on a Saturday night?
Well, Saturday, every second Saturday of the month, I'm at Reality of Wrestling. So I'm working.
Nice.
Any other Saturdays besides that, I like to hang out at the house and sleep. I work 24/7, and if I have a free night, I want to just stay home and sleep, wake up early in the morning, go to the gym. I think I'm more of like a weekend morning girl. Like if I can wake up early, get a good run in, go shopping, get my nails done, drink some coffee. So boring, but it's honestly oh yay, okay. Like I feel like that's what I really enjoy to doing. And then like maybe once every couple of months, I love to get together with my girlfriends from back in the day, because I know that my family and my friends, my core people, they love me the most. So I like to like reconnect with them. I think what I've taken for granted is that I really don't spend time with them anymore, because I'm so busy with all this wrestling stuff and all the other sports that I cover, that I hardly have time for my family and friends. And I feel like sometimes that's the reset that I absolutely need. So it means a lot to me getting with them.
Absolutely. Work-life balance is huge, as well as in the words of Aziz and from Parks and Recreation, treat yourself. You got to treat yourself. You got to make
yourself. Treat yourself.
Treat yourself. Yeah, you got to treat yourself. So I got to ask before we're getting towards the end here. La Princesa, Tiffany Nieves. She's had some harsh critiques of your management. How much? Again, a fiery personality. She's the champion, and she is. She's got her mind made up on certain things. Dealing. You have a great. Not saying that you're afraid of her. You do a great job standing up to her. How much of the criticisms that you have received have you taken to heart some of them and are looking, or some of them do you dismiss them as this person is just trying to attack because she doesn't like the fact that I'm having to do this job? And also with that question is, how do you keep a thick skin when you're getting, some of the stuff she says, I'm kind of like, woo, like she thinks she's about to get in a steel cage with you.
Well, honestly, I think that's why Mission Pro hired me to be the general manager. Thunder Rosa and Brian and the rest of the management team, they know the background that I came from. I came from a sports radio background. There's only 2% minority women in that field. So you can only imagine, I've heard the worst of the worst. Take your mind to the darkest place of what somebody can say to you or what somebody can do to you in your real life. Take your mind there, go a little bit deeper and go past that. And that's what I've experienced. So these comments, these telling me I need to wear makeup, telling me I need to put on a blazer today, that's light work to me. You understand what I'm saying? I take it with a grain of salt. I'm never going to take it personal because, like I said, I know emotions run high. I know how to keep a level head, but in the event that one day I decide to not have a level head too, I hope these people allow me the same kind of grace that I allow them. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Because if I'm going to give you the grace to talk to me any kind of way like I have because I am supposed to be level headed, then if for one reason, one day I decide to turn around and have my moment, I hope I am allowed that same type of forgiveness. And I will just leave it at that.
That's when La Princesa reaches that point on the graph where the F around and find out meet, right? When you reach the F around and find out part of the graph, that's
and honestly, like I can understand Tiffany's frustration, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that, like I said, I'm scared of Tiffany. I'm scared of Thunder Rosa. They know this, right? But I have to do my job because, like I said, I don't want to lose my job, so I got to do my job, even if I'm afraid, right? And like you said, the absence of, I can't remember the quote, but it was great. The absence of fear is something about courage. It's one of those situations.
Yep.
Tiffany is awesome, right? And I think what makes her so great is she's such a professional, right? When I talk to Tiffany, I know I'm talking to a professional. When I talk to Linda Rosa, I know I am talking to a professional. So I understand these frustrations are going to come around, but sometimes we all have to really dig deep and figure out why I'm doing the things I'm doing. Tiffany cheated Roche Chanel, right? Out of a title. So if I'm trying to uphold the vision of Mission Pro Wrestling, that we're supposed to uplift and empower women, then I'm going to allow her a rematch. Because what would the outcome been had the cheating not occurred? Now we have a fair opportunity to make it happen again. And now we will find out who is the best of the best. And if Tiffany ends up retaining her title, then so be it. She deserves to be champion. It's well earned. If Roche strips her of the title, now we know where we stand. And then I feel like at that point, we have a clear vision of who deserves to be Mission Pro champion.
Love that. Excellent. Yeah, and I think that's the kind of tough decisions a general manager needs to make, because now it's set up where you've eliminated any possible doubt. And you've given, Roche Chanel a fair opportunity now. And I think that's tremendous. Those are the tough decisions. And I think you're right about Tiffany, is that she doesn't have to like it and she can cuss you up a storm. But at the end of the day, she recognizes that this is the rule. This is what's coming down. Respect the position.
Absolutely. And like I said, if we're trying to be the top women's wrestling company in the country, the last thing I need as a general manager is for people to approach us and say, well, your Mission Pro champion is a cheater. You guys
Yeah.
allow cheating to occur,
Representation.
and you want to uphold yourself as the top women's wrestling company in the country. I can't sleep at night knowing we didn't do everything in our power to make sure everybody gets a fair opportunity. So like I said, may the best woman win. And like I said, like you said, Tiffany might not like it, right? I know it does. I can't make everybody happy, but I know I can sleep at night knowing I did everything in my power to do the right thing. And it's easier said than done. But like I said, I can sleep good at night because I'm not moving in a malicious type of manner. So that's how I approach things.
Amen. Amen. I'm feeling so much better, even more better about you in the position. Art in the chat, he's got a question. Art Butler, I love this question. As a rising leading voice in the Latin community, talk about Mission Pro's impact in the Latin community, especially now.
Mission Pro is it's a beacon of hope for people in our community, and we are totally community involved. We give back to the Salvation Army at every single show, and we also give back to the Salvation Army during Christmas. We do many things to raise money for the Salvation Army, and they go towards the women's shelter. They go towards children and disenfranchised families throughout the state of Texas and San Antonio specifically. I personally have utilized the Salvation Army services when I was younger. I received therapy for women's services, and it was really important to me. So one of the reasons why I feel like me and Thunder Rosa connected was because of our backgrounds. We both came from tough beginnings, and we both utilized the services of those places. And when we go to the shelters and we speak to the women there, we were once in those situations too at some point, and we understand that you can get out of those situations. And if it wasn't for people who gave back to the community, then I wouldn't be general manager of Mission Pro. Thunder Rosa wouldn't be AEW women's champion and a huge name in sports and a Latina at the same time. So had people not helped out back in the day, I don't know where I would be, and I don't think she would know either. So that's why when we give back, we're not giving back just because we feel like it. We're giving back because we understand the impact that it has, whether you see it or not at the time.
Do you feel like we need more programs out there? I see Mission Pro's involvement. You see stuff on social media about the teacher that has the wrestling club for the underprivileged children. They got to go to WrestleMania. Yeah, and it seems like Mission Pro is on a trajectory with your guidance and working with Brian and Thunder, that this Mission Pro can be kind of that beacon, like you continue to be that beacon and really grow. And imagine I say we, I feel like I'm part of it. It's like we get a Netflix special or a series or something like that, and just adding more. That's something I'd love to see is those like little vignettes. There was a while where you would see those interactions, Rashay would do some kind of the boutique or something like that, or maybe give I don't know, maybe give Freya the Slaya a makeover or something like that, or it'd be pretty cool. Well, Brent, do you have anything else before we get into our big matchup here? Our big challenge.
I think I'm good.
Well, to truly test, you've almost won us over, I think, but there's a true test here to see if you truly are Mission Pro management material, and all of our guests have to go through it. It's time for you to get in the ring and face the Fast Five. All right, the Fast Five are 5 very quick questions. Answer the first thing that comes to your mind. And just a little secret, no, these are not going to be hard. There's no math involved. I don't think so. No math involved. You don't need to carry the one, or no algebra or anything like that. But we try to make them non-wrestling questions. So my first question off the bat to you is, if you could have any superpower at all, what would it be and why?
Healing. I love to be a healer. I wish I could just touch people and cure whatever ailment they have, cancer, anxiety, Alzheimer's, the flu, that's a superpower. And once I saw that superpower listed, I was like, that's the one that I would love.
That's the first time someone has answered with something that, I mean, I'm not bashing everybody else, but that's the first time I've heard someone use name a superpower that's not just for them. Because we've had invisibility, flight, we've had all these other things. Healing others, wow, that's awesome. I think that's pretty cool.
Honestly, if it was a real thing, like, it would have changed so many outcomes in my life, So, I mean, I would love to have that superpower.
Very cool. All right, Britt, number 2.
Are you binge watching any TV series right now?
I saw Quiet on Set, the Nickelodeon child abuse story,
Oh, wow.
and I was screaming at my TV because I was so angry.
This isn't a question, but did it change how you view Nickelodeon and a lot of these other shows? Maybe Dan Schneider a little bit.
Yeah, just Dan's crazy self. I think it made me sad for the victims more than anything. Yeah. It made me sad for the victims for sure.
Yeah, I made me sad about just looking back at all that and just wondering like how many of the, it's sad. It's we don't want to be a downer, but yeah, that's check it out. It's eye opening and it makes you really think about like child stars and the amount of the stuff they have to kind of go through. So let's lighten this up a little bit. What is your most obsessive candy that you must have? Like it's like your crack. You gotta have it.
Okay, chocolate covered pretzels. I go through them like crazy. The Nestle Flips, I love those. I like salty and sweet. And the other thing is popcorn and M&Ms together.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. All right, Brent, number 4.
You have a favorite live concert that you've went to?
Ooh. God, Randy Rogers. I don't know if y'all heard of that band, country. Randy Rogers. I fell in love.
Are they from Texas?
Texas country, yep.
Nice.
And then I also 50 Cent and Eminem. 50 Cent gave me his belt.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
That was fun.
Very cool.
Well, if you get the 50 Cent stamp of approval, in addition to the Thunder Rosa and Brian's stamp of approval, then you're aces. Shoot, President of the United States is next, I think, down the line. And the last question is with your lawyer potential that your mom said go be a lawyer. If you were going to become a lawyer, what division of law would you focus on? Like criminal, child stuff, like divorce, family law. What would be your specialty?
Gosh, that's really tough. If I could be a lawyer, sports and entertainment lawyer. Let's negotiate those contracts. Let's make it happen.
This is a follow-up question. Do you feel like, with companies like AEW emerging and TNA becoming more prominent, of course, Mission Pro growing, has that helped talent have a better foothold in negotiating their contracts a little more because there's other options? They used to be just WWE or bust, but now there's like Matt Cardona was able to, and even in Chelsea and everybody, they were able to make a name for themselves in the indie circuit.
Honestly, I hear different things from different people. Some say you need a agent. Some say it's best to not have one. So I've heard in the wrestling world, you're better off negotiating it by yourself without a specific lawyer or an agent. But if you're a big dog, then yes, I do feel like at that point it's necessary. Like, for example, Stone Cold allegedly didn't come out last night simply because of the fact that allegedly the WWE didn't pay him enough money. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think in those instances, if it were true, then you would need somebody to help you negotiate at that point. But for the most part, from what I've heard, word of mouth, you really don't need an agent. Now, definitely in other sports, football, basketball, agent is absolutely necessary.
It's interesting too. Like I've seen, and again, this is my totally absent from the whole situation perspective. But I've noticed sometimes, like when an actor or actress or sports celebrity when they start to get more noticed outside of what they do, like they become a celebrity, not just their profession, and they get a handler, they almost stop becoming a person. Like I remember I used to watch the Craig Ferguson late night show, and he would interview people, and I'd see people come on the show first when they're just breaking in, and they're very personable, they're talking, and then it's like a few years later they got a handler and they got a PR team, and they come in and they're very robotic. And I mean, is that just to keep them out of legal trouble, or is that sometimes going to be a negative to having a handler?
I think it's a positive, because just for me being in the field for a long time, and like I said, me being a woman, it was a rarity. I used to be very, very open and honest, and I still am to a certain extent, right? But there have been things that have happened throughout my career where it's scary. People have tried to take advantage of my fans and rob them of their money. People have tried to do everything in their power to tear me down. I've been through a lot of hurtful and painful things. People have contacted my family members, and people have tried to cause wedges in my family relationships and making up stories. So, and this is people that are fans of mine, or obsessive people that have watched me. So I used to be very open, but then I became more private as far as my personal life is concerned because of those experiences. So when I see these open people who begin really open and honest and very humble and nice, and then they become very private, I don't like to judge them, because I can only imagine what they've been through and what's made them be so closed off. Like, for example, my favorite Tejano singer, Selena, she was so nice and trusting,
look what
and
happened.
her best friend killed her. So if she would have survived that, I can imagine she'd be way more private at that point because of her experience with someone who was supposed to be her friend. So I don't judge those people, but I do understand why sometimes you might want a handler, because you could be like somebody like me who tends to be more on the naive side, and you think everybody has a good heart, but these handlers are able to kind of weed through the grass and see who's good for you and who's not. And it's a gift and a curse.
I love what you just said too, is don't try to judge, try to understand. You know, that in itself is a life philosophy that I think is tremendous. And well, you've convinced me that they know what they're doing in Mission Pro when they're selecting their GM. I mean, I'm excited. You don't sound like this is a stepping stone. This sounds like your MPW. This is long term. This is for life, or at least as long as you get going. I'm excited to see where you with your leadership, along with Brian and Thunder, where you guys are good. Where in Mission Pro in 5 years is who we might be watching the series, you know, Go Mission Pro, and I'm excited.
Go Mission Pro, royalty.
Go Mission Pro. We'll have to get Mikey Ruckus to come up with a good theme song for it or something. But well, Carolina, on behalf of Brent Ross, it has been awesome to have you here. To quote RJ City, this has been a privilege to have you with us. This has been awesome, really eye-opening. I feel like we got a lot of people in the chat loving to see you. We even have a prediction that you will be the mayor of San Antonio. Let's go. I mean, hey, you know what? Let's do it. Let's see. But as long as you promise to still be the GM of Mission Pro, even when you're the mayor, you know, you could get a lot of stuff done. If you could stand up to Thunder Rosa and Tiffany Nieves and be fair, you can handle a lot of those politicians. So we wish you the best. Thank you so much for hanging with us. And make sure, again, you follow at the CT, the Mike Slayer on X. Go check out. And we didn't even get a chance to really talk about your podcast, A League of Our Own. Tell you what, I'm going to let you all discover that on your own. A League of Her Own, but if you really want to get a feel for the podcast side, the media side, go check her out. Go check her out on YouTube. Check out all the media events. I know you that was RCW. You're more than just the announcer. You're like the media specialist there too. So check that out. All cool stuff. Do you have any special appearances coming up besides this big one on 420?
I'm going to be at Reality Wrestling this weekend. Then I have 420 coming up. And I also commentate on boxing. So there's going to be some boxing stuff. And then, of course, I have my podcast right now we're doing Tuesdays. Every single Tuesdays with Teague. It's going to be, I have Alamo City Sportscast I come on, but my main one, League of Our Own, I'm going to be on tomorrow night at VodPod Media. As far as things coming up, I like to keep my stuff very, very private.
Gotcha.
But I will say that I have big dreams. And I hope you guys see more of me soon.
We are looking forward to it. And on that, let's hear that theme song once again. It's the boss lady herself. She is the Mike Slaya CT in the house. Thank you so much.